A couple more statements were published this week on the SWTOR team move over to Broadsword. In addition, we saw announcements and public profile updates for at least 28 team members that are moving over. We'll talk about that and more on this episode of the SWTOR Escape podcast from newoverlords.com. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 472. And with me is Seema. Hello there, Seema. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I mean, before we get into all the Broadsword transition stuff that we were going to talk about later, I'm closing in on rep for the Galactic Seasons.
Yeah.
And at this late stage of the game, I decided to get all cagey and start doing just a little bit at a time. I did this last time too, and it lasted for one day. But so I only have 300 rep left to do.
Wow.
And so yeah, I started doing just one tiny hand in during the day, because now I'm back to doing the conquest thing, because we still have 6 weeks.
Right.
6 weeks left in the...
Yeah, at least 6 weeks.
Yeah. I call it 6 because I'm afraid to call it 7 in case it's
when the reset is
at midnight or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So and you can get 5,000 per week, so that's 30. You could still be 30,000 away. So you could practically be, just starting champion and still have plenty of time.
Yes. So I should have started that last week, but it wasn't until this week when I just said, you know what, I'm going to make it no matter what. So I'm just going to start slow my roll on that and go back to the conquest method of rep tokens.
Right.
But I was kind of laughing at myself when I decided to do it. So yeah, Galactic Season's going pretty well. What am I at? I'm at the high 80s for the achievement. So closing in on that as well. The 100 targets, I mean.
Right. 100 targets. That's what I'm still finishing up to. What is the name of the rep? I'm trying to find it. Messengers of the Cold Moon. There it is.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I do for rep to make it really super easy?
What do you do?
You go legacy, reputation, and at the bottom there's those buttons. You click the one that says completed, and then it gets rid of all the reps that are already completed, and you just have the ones
just show completed. Well, there's still a lot that are completed. I didn't know what it was called, so I was looking through all the completed ones. I have them sorted by completed.
Well, yeah.
Legacy of the Cold Moon or
But what I'm saying is, if you click the one completed, which unclicks it, then all the completed ones don't show, and you just get the short list of the ones that you haven't completed.
But I completed it last week or the week before.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so yeah. Messengers of the Cold Moon, right? I still have that. Well, a sliver of that one to do. The ones I have left are Manon, Runic, and Andron.
I have GSI, Voss the planet.
Still Voss?
Yes. I'm 4,000 away from legendary on Voss the planet, and then I still have the 3 fleet I have the space missions. I'm only hero with the space missions. And
space missions, yeah, that's cool. I wish I still had the space missions.
And then these I probably even have tokens sitting around to turn in, but the pod racing, the swoop racing, the 3 swoop races are not it. Yes, I actually don't want to finish it because it's sitting out there. It says something about Voss. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only way for you to get Voss rep is to do the heroics, and it's not your favorite gameplay thing anyway, heroics. So.
And it was one of those planets that came so late in the class story that even though I did the class story, 32 times, I was always already level 50 or level cap or moving on to expansion content before those characters ever got to Voss. That's why Voss never got completed.
And when I say that's the only way, I meant it's the only way for you on this character. But yes, you obviously could make new characters and play story stuff. And
but even if I do, I'm not going to do it on Voss because I'll just do their class mission and then I'll do CZ198 or whatever else to.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just been doing Galactic Seasons this week. We did not have our ops team because a couple people were slackers and didn't, had something in real life to conflict, so we just didn't have a raid tonight.
Yeah,
But we did have a fun time with MFN this week,
we did.
as always.
Did an
Yeah,
ops night ops on Tuesday, right?
we did. We did Ravagers, which we haven't done on MFN for a while.
Yeah, that was fun. I like Ravagers. We told pirate jokes.
And it's
And
kind of wild on 16 man, especially Torek in that small room.
mhm, and Master Blaster with all the circles and the blue circles and overlapping a
Yep,
whole bunch of people running
yep.
around. But we did.
And people who haven't done Master Blaster don't know that, when you die, you get like catapulted to the corners and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Corley held back a few instructions just to make it more fun and scarier, which was excellent. I think we only wiped once on Master Blaster, actually, because
Yeah.
we had some people getting knocked around and knocked off. And yeah, it was good. And we had a bunch of people. Oh, I think we did it with 11. We did 16 person
Hmm.
Ravagers with 11 people. And some of those people either had never done it before or definitely a bunch of people hadn't done it in 16 because there were
Yes.
achievements popping off all
Yep.
night.
Which is always good. I love it when we see achievements on MFN.
Yes. Yeah. Very cool.
How about you, Max? What have you been up to this week?
I have been as well looking at, well, the biggest thing I did was the MFN on Tuesday because we didn't do our ups tonight. And I am done with the rep. So I'm on the final countdown of this week and I could be done as early as Tuesday with the 100 because I think I have
Oh, yeah.
11. I didn't even finish any of them this week. I don't think I did. I don't think I checked any of them off, but
While you
I'm
talk,
down
I'm
to
looking
11.
for. Yeah, where am I? Oh, it's
Yeah,
under
I'm 0
Legacy
zero
Galactic
of
Season.
7 for the week so far because I was slacking off yesterday and this morning because we didn't do our ops. But I will do somewhere between uh,
Yeah, I have
4.
89 right now.
I'll do somewhere between 4 and 7, and then do the balance of my 11 on. Yeah, you're at 89. Well, you too.
Yeah, so I have 11 too. Yeah, that's right. It's like, how'd you get ahead? And I'm like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be that
Have
far
you
behind you,
completed any
but
for the week though yet so far?
I have. I've done 4 for the week, I think.
Okay, so I'm only a couple ahead of you. Um, but if you've done 4 for the week, then you may end up needing to take 2 weeks. You
Yeah,
will
I
not
might.
be done on Tuesday. I think I
Yeah.
may win. I'll win, but by winning, I will lose. And I'm already feeling this is with the season meta achievement coming to a close. I want the next season. I want to start now. I because I look forward to Tuesday morning looking at looking at the objectives, seeing what we're going to do up for MFN and see what I'm going to do for the week and am I going to put myself through doing I want the PvP season to start as well because there's 3 PvP objectives, 1 GSF and 2 PvP objectives this week, I believe. Yeah, heading the front line. Uh yeah, heading the front line and I thought there was maybe there's only 2. Storming the Battlefront? Yeah. Heading the front line and storming the battlefront. So 10 arena matches and 8 Warzone matches and 25 medals for GSF. So if the PvP season was going, I could use this as an excuse to get a little progress in the PvP track. That
That's true.
the PvP season may start with a week or 2 left to go in Galactic seasons, now that I think about it. Not that it will matter at that point because I'll be done with the meta achievement, but the new PvP season is starting in the middle of July, and Galactic season may still just be wrapping up. The armor set for the next season, Galactic season PvP track is an evolution of the one we have this season, and it looks really good. So I'll probably want to go up to level 16 on that track again. We'll have to see how that goes. But it would give me an excuse and it would allow me to do, anytime you're sort of like doing 2 things or have an excuse to get
Right.
progress on multiple objectives, it
Right.
feels really good. And so
Right.
I'm going to be
Like
sad
this week
when it's over.
in Galactic Seasons, there's a couple of targets that are like that.
I mostly talked about it in the pre-show, but maybe I can spend my time in honor of our Broadsword overlords. I pulled this out, which is my, for people that are only listening, it is my Ultima Online Charter Edition Collector's Edition box. Original box signed by Lord British with all of the cool stuff in it. We showed it off in the pre-show, including the cloth map and all of the paper manuals and books and lore book and pin and stuff in here. Pretty amazing. Maybe I'll fire up Ultima Online. I wish I had my old account. I don't, but I wish I did. That would be really cool to be able to log back into that. What was I saying? PvP season, Galactic season. I want them both. I want to be able to do the Galactic season objective for 10 arenas and have it count for the PvP season. That's what I was saying, chat room. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
I'm thinking about between Galactic Season 4 and 5, maybe setting some kind of in-game goals for myself that I always lament during the season that I didn't do when I didn't have the season. So, like, for instance, I always fall back on CZ-198, Black Hole, and the things I'm familiar with when I want to hit targets because, I don't know, I'm mentally lazy or whatever. So I need to get out there and get familiar with Manon and familiar with Runic so that those are on my plate, you know?
Right.
And maybe I'll do that between seasons.
Yeah, I have that on my list as well. I want a bunch of the decorations out of Runic.
And that too, yeah. And
so
I
I
want
want their reputations done.
and I want to be able to click on the
Right.
items that I have in my
click
inventory
yeah,
right
I
now.
just thought of that. What do I have here? I've got two hidden chain brawlers that I can't even click on because it requires champion standing with the Mandalorian. I've got other stuff on other characters too. And I've got like this. I've got this peppery slime gourd that I don't know what to do with. That's for something somewhere. So yeah, I got to figure that stuff out and get that stuff done. So that'll be what will fill in the gap. But that is what we have been doing. Let's hear a little bit about what BioWare has been doing in the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
I'm going to have to stop saying BioWare, aren't I? Pretty soon.
Pretty soon.
What the SWTOR team has been doing. So first up in the news, the SWTOR team did release a patch 7.3c that came out yesterday, I believe. It's very small. And in fact, it's so small. A couple of these bullets, like what was the last bullet was like, no longer has empty space at the bottom of the welcome window. Okay, so they, slight CSS update.
Well, I mean, actually, I noticed that when it was happening. I'm like, well, why don't I? What am I missing?
Oh, okay. Maybe
What
you think you're
section
missing
isn't
something
playing?
there.
Yeah,
So.
but I didn't realize it was a bug. I just thought, oh, I didn't get the cartel market, or I didn't get the mission log section, or whatever.
Oh, so is that the in-game welcome thing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this one, and then there was space down here that was missing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there was for me.
I closed that thing so fast.
I always look at the cartel market thing because sometimes it's cool stuff.
True. The plate shadow devourer is currently the cartel market featured item. 50% off. Only 750 cartel coins there. It is, well, that is pretty cool. Now, see? All right. Maybe
That's how they get you.
I closed that window so fast. Never noticed there was space or not space there. But yeah, mostly it was a couple of the updates that they wanted to make sure that they got in there around the taxes again. They didn't want you to be able to have to be paying taxes when you transferred credits to yourself, in particular. Moving things between legacy, using mail to move things around, that should not be causing you to have to pay taxes. So that is all fixed, but they'll probably still continue to make tweaks to that. They're making tweaks in a few different places around that still. So there was a progress stopping bug for the old Wounds content because something was getting reset in the Voss restoration initiative. So that got fixed too. Good to see. And then there was a little mismatch in the Voss armor sets and their icons. So that's fixed up too. It's a real small update, but they're continuing to get that out there, and we're looking forward then to 7.4 is on the horizon, or 7.3.5. I think there's actually two that Keith has alluded to, and maybe we'll mention again soon, shortly, when we talk about what Keith has said this week in the news. What else do we got coming up in SWTOR news, though, that
We're
we
actually
really need
trying
to?
to program ourselves to remember that Nightlife
Yes.
starts on July 11th. It's
Yes.
going to go till August 22nd.
I'm getting ready. I'm tuning everything up. I'm gonna be all ready for disappointment. I have to mentally prepare myself for the just set my expectations really low so that I don't cry myself to sleep every night. Yes, so that's that. In Guild and community news, we do have a guild and a community. It is a gaming community. We have a big event coming up in a month. It's our big summer event. So you'll be hearing more about that from us in the next couple of weeks while we ramp up our planning, because it always focuses and centers around August 2nd, which is our Remembrance Day, which is big 15-year annual community event where we remember people who are no longer with us in the real world, that were gamers and friends and part of the community. But around that, we do a week of game events. And so our SWTOR team has already got some things in the planning. So there's going to be some fun things beyond our regular mandatory fun night. Keep an eye out for that. But if you want to find out the rest of what we have going on across our game divisions in AIE, especially that week, last week in July, first week in August, you can check that out at aie-guild.org. And then in SWTOR, we still have our Tuesday night stuff. We've got operations running almost every night of the week. We've got our Wednesday every other week PvP stuff. Stask is in the chat room right here. He's one of our officers that runs a lot of the PvP. And then amongst other things, one thing that often happens on Friday nights is a little bit of GSF. I did fly some GSF this past Friday. Couple matches, and then we looked at how many medals that we had gotten for the depressing losses. We and decided we weren't doing that objective for Galactic Seasons. And we stopped. We landed our squadron and hit the cantina. That's what we did. Shout out to the chat room, hanging out with us, seeing me do my unboxing of Ultima Online in the pre-show was kind of fun. We'll talk to you all after as well. Really appreciate everybody hanging out in there. If you would like to do that, this is usually at 10:30 p.m. Central on Thursday nights is when we do the recording for the show live on twitch.tv/newoverlords. Otherwise, you can join us in our Discord, and we are pretty responsive in there. So if you have other questions or input or ideas for us, that is newoverlords.com/Discord, and you can come hang out in there with us as well. And we'll get you in the guild. We can point you to the AIE-guild.org, which has got the Discord link for the main AIE guild. We'll get you all connected. But newoverlords.com/Discord. We really, really have fun. It's good. It's a quiet Discord, so it's not going to ping you a whole bunch, but we have fun hanging out with some people in there and talking about lots of things, lots of the games industry, but a bunch, mainly SWTOR podcast stuff. All right, let's hear what we're hearing to hear.
We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
I finally pulled that audio. I cut
Well
that
done.
audio out. I don't know why I didn't have that. I've got the full thing where he picks it up and says weapons malfunction, blah blah blah. But we're fine. We're fine. The SWTOR team is apparently fine. We tracked down 28 team members. We knew that it would be about 30, and I can confirm that from what I see from public profile updates and tweets that people have been putting out, 28 members. So we're going to talk about all these different members that are moving over to Broadsword, and it seems like that's pretty much going on now. They're all listings that we started at Broadsword, blah blah blah. So we're going to go over that, but I think we'll start with two longer posts that went up. The first one was with Keith, and the second one was with Gary McKay, who's still at BioWare, will stay at BioWare because he's the general manager of BioWare under Electronic Arts. So he's going to be keeping the BioWare projects going, and he talked about what those were, but had some nice words to say about the SWTOR team, which again he's missing out on. He's going to be losing. So let's start with the Keith news. Seema, you did a little bit of decomposition and analysis on the Keith article. You wanna break it down for us a little bit to start?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was looking through his first post, and a couple things that I picked out from it that were meaningful to me basically is he does comment that the Lucasfilm Games relationship is going to continue going forward. It's not like we're being cut loose from that.
Right?
The move to the go ahead.
No, I said right.
Yeah. The move to the cloud is still going forward. It might be impacted timeline wise, but there's still that, and they're still looking at the Apex server idea. A
Yeah.
lot of people had asked them if they're going to be moving anywhere, like out of Austin, but no, they're going to be staying in Austin. They mostly are remote, but they are going to be finding new office space in Austin.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. Which I guess they would have to. Uh, I but
I
I
mean,
wasn't sure because if they're taking like most of the SWTOR team, I don't know
I
what
hadn't, I
BioWare
just
is gonna
hadn't,
do with that space.
I just had, right. I just hadn't really thought about it, but I guess, I guess so. Yeah. Um, I guess because a lot of groups when they get outsourced, they stay where they are, but a lot don't.
Right.
So, um,
But what we could see is BioWare needing to do some rejiggering of their office space because
yeah,
if they've got 30, basically 30 desks worth or 30 headcount worth of office space that's now going to be empty, they're not going to like be hiring and backfilling all of that office space. And all of these companies are downsizing office space as it is. They may be hoping that their lease is running out soon and maybe doing some rejiggering of BioWare Austin office space in general.
yeah. I mean,
Never
I,
can
I
tell with that kind of thing.
if I would have thought about it at all, I know they do a lot of virtual stuff and a lot of work from home. And we've talked to many companies, you and I, that are doing exclusively work from home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that
Yeah,
was an
game
option.
companies that
So,
have no office space, have 0
yeah,
office space.
yeah.
So,
So maybe they find a place in Austin that is, um, you know, infinitely configurable, and they can have some people there some of the time, kind of a thing.
right. It is nice to have an office that some of the
Yeah.
people can go to, and when you need to do, like, a design meeting and get people putting art up on the walls and doing some whiteboarding and doing some design thinking with the Post-it notes and that kinda thing, it's nice to have some office space, and not have to, like, be renting or, getting a conference room at a shared space or at a hotel or something, but although you can, they
And
could
the,
go
and the
that
one
direction
thing
too.
that's hard in a work from home environment to replicate is the idea that you can walk down the hall and talk to somebody, or that you could have a spontaneous conversation and get ideas from something. There are ways to do it, but it doesn't happen as naturally.
Right, right, exactly, and it's really hard to maintain that part of it even if you think that you can, and there are tools to do it. People still will fall back to not wanting to be, like, online with a camera on their face for some number of hours every single day,
Yeah.
which is kind of the way you end up doing that. But I know teams that are doing that too.
Yep. And speaking of the cloud, the move to the cloud, he did mention a couple other sort of interesting tech things that are on the horizon. One was a better integration with Steam, which I thought the integration with Steam was pretty good already, but I thought, well, maybe the achievements thing might be updated. I don't know what this means, but it is something he brought up.
Right.
And and they also are planning to update to DirectX 12. I don't know what that's going to mean for players necessarily, if anything, just that they'll be up to date. SWTOR will be more up to date.
And another piece of that continuing tech update that just makes everything work better, frame rates better, things look better. As we're seeing the graphics continue to be sort of evolved, that's great. I mean, that would feed into that.
And then he also gave like a sort of a some dates. Like he says 7.3.1 toward the end of the summer and 7.4, quote unquote, as we enter the holidays, which is pretty broad, but I'm okay with that. I mean,
Yeah. So that
that
sounds
gives us
like
an idea.
November
Yeah.
to me. October,
Yes.
November
Yes.
would be
And
entering the
then
holidays.
he closed it with this phrase, every player, every day, which is a Broadsword, um, a thing that's all over Broadsword's site. So I think that's a fine motto for a live service company.
Right. Yeah. And I think this
And I
is all
think
good news.
it kind of capsulizes what Schmidt said about what BioWare and EA were kind of missing is like that every player every day isn't where their focus is. Their
Right.
focus is next box,
Right.
the next box release.
Exactly. Which is great, and we wanna see that. We want another
Yeah.
Mass Effect. We want a Dragon Age. But when your company is it's a different company cadence, and it's a different process, when you're focused on that, and that's why you get these big bursts of marketing and advertising and SWTOR, even though it's like bringing in tons of money and funding these other projects on the side, gets none of that because it's not a big box launch. So there's also potentially an opportunity here. Well, I don't know. We'll talk about publisher and what publishers can do, but EA could, because they need to hold up their end of the bargain, they could maybe start doing some marketing, which they haven't been doing at all in recent years.
Right. They would have to, yes, if they were going to do some marketing, they would have to start doing some marketing.
Right.
And they haven't in the past. We'll see. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. But we'll talk about that. So not a ton of a couple tidbits here and there, not a ton of new information, but when you couple this with what we're going to also get into, which is all of the people that we're seeing moving over, it continues to make us quite positive on this move to Broadsword. It is all the people, and it is all
Right.
of the right people. Maybe there's a couple. We've got a couple on the list that are either a no or we don't know. But most of the big names on the team that we would hope would still be focused on it are, and that speaks highly to what's happening here. This is SWTOR as SWTOR. I think Jackie, I almost titled the podcast what Jackie said, which is same book, different chapter, or same book, new chapter. I
Yeah.
think that was one
Yeah.
of Jackie's
Same book, new
quotes,
chapter. Yeah.
which is great. So that's good for us, good for the community, good for SWTOR. Then we got a follow up or a co-post from Gary McKay. So Gary is the Electronic Arts general manager. He runs not Electronic Arts, he's
No,
BioWare.
BioWare. Yeah. Yeah.
By me, Electronic Arts also. He's under he probably reports to the GM CEO of Electronic Arts in general. But he's the BioWare GM. So he basically the head of the BioWare division. He pretty nice post. I didn't pull out all that many bullets in here, but he has nice things to say about Keith.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you see anything all that interesting in here?
I mean, he basically said that this is going to allow BioWare to focus on Dragon Age and Mass Effect. And he did comment that in the case of Dragon Age, it would be some kind of a fine-tuning thing, but that Mass Effect, they're working on a new release of Mass Effect. So I thought that was kind of weird because, focus on Dragon Age, but there isn't going to be a new Dragon Age.
I think no, I think a new Dragon Age is in production. So this is build, polish, and tune the next Dragon Age, which they're working on. Mass Effect, they're not working on it yet, and they haven't announced anything a next Mass Effect. But this is basically, in effect, an announcement that they're in pre-production. Pre-production still means that it could be 5, 6, 10 years
Yes.
away.
I mean, it is BioWare after all.
But it does say for Mass Effect, we continue pre-production with a core team of veteran storytellers. So pre-production means they're committing to it internally, at least in some way, and that's good for the Mass Effect fans.
I think it's telling in a certain way that the way they start is with storytellers.
So chat room mentions that the Dragon Age is Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and in theory has been in pre-production since 2015, or in production since 2015, and maybe that was pre-production back then. Them needing to push focus in multiple directions, being potentially distracted and derailed in other ways, having to have their focus in other places. Now they can buckle down and get Dragon Age out the door. Sounds like what Gary's here is saying in
Well, I
particular.
will be watching with great interest to see if that is the effect.
We will watch your career with great interest. Yes.
I mean, it was a fine post. I thought it was kind of a like, bye. Don't let the door hit you in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, although, I mean, he's got a job to do as well, so that's
Yeah,
fine. But
but
he
he didn't
did
have to write to us about it.
right. And he said nice things,
Yeah,
about the team, so
yeah.
but yeah, not all that much there. So, we thanks, Gary. It was nice hanging with you for as long as we
Yeah,
did,
I mean,
and
it was great not knowing you.
right, right. He didn't really have that much of a face in SWTOR world.
Uh-uh.
We would like to see BioWare be successful, and I would like another Mass Effect in particular. In fact, I mean, if it's in pre-production, it's going to be a long way off. They could still get it out the door uh, before Star Citizen. So let's get let's get Mass Effect. We'll play Starfield for space games, and Star Wars: The Old Republic will be continuing, which is it's not as much a space game as it is a Star Wars game.
Mhm.
But then we'll get a Mass Effect space game, maybe like 5 years down the road, and have fun with that. So, the dev team is moving over, and we had a couple people sleuthing around. We SWTORista has a good post up there with about 8 or 10 of the key people that were announcing themselves in the forums and on Twitter, and then public updates of profiles both in the forums and in LinkedIn gave us a list. And I did a bunch of work. Seema and I did some looking today and yesterday. We came up with 28 named people that we can tell you are moving over to Broadsword or have moved over and have Broadsword as part of their name and title at this point. There are a couple notable exceptions, and we'll get to those, but let's talk about who these people are and what they've been saying this week. So Keith, we already saw Keith's post. He's the big dog in terms of the lead of what this team is, and will probably continue to be the big leader. Jackie is definitely moving and had some great photos, some great posts, two really good photos, and she is on point with this social media. Did you see her photo?
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
It is really good. Yeah, in front of the logo, and her fan. So she's now got that fan that's part of her brand. Or
Yep.
I mean, she's got a whole collection of fans. I looked at this, and this is just her. She was probably just in the office one day. She grabbed one of the lightsabers and had somebody take a picture of her in front of the. It's not like they put a whole bunch of time of work. It's probably just sitting in the office, but just as good as this came out, they should take this and make a Force user character in SWTOR out of
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Some Jedi or Sith, but include the fan as an iconic piece. And even Jackie's hair, her hair is always pretty cool too. She does
Right.
interesting,
Right.
fun things with her hair, but she's got the tips highlighted, and she's got the lightsaber behind her. She's facing way towards the logo, and she's got the fan in her left hand. That is super cool look. And then she's got another one where she's basically hugging the giant wall mural of Satil Shan that they must have in their office somewhere, which looks super awesome. I want that for my house. To have that across the wall, that's got to be inspirational. You want that kind of art in a studio, so that is super cool. But she's hugging the wall. So a couple good pictures, and then she had some really nice notes that she put up there on Twitter too. So a tweet series where she said, she really likes the people, she loves her job, she's really glad to be moving with the team. and I'm glad she's moving as well. So she's going to be
Oh, yeah.
continuing her same role as the community lead, and we can look forward to continuing to have Jackie as part of everything we do with SWTOR. So that's excellent. Who else? So the other big ones that spent some time on Twitter talking to us and telling us about the move and what they're excited about included Caitlin Sullivan Kelly. So if we look at the what we called the council, so they had a big deal when Charles left last year. They named 5 people, and of those 5 people, 4 are moving over to Broadsword, and 1 left the company back in November. And that was Alan Copeland. Yeah. So Alan was the UX designer uh, who actually left BioWare in November. Is at Insomniac working on the Spider-Man games probably. So he is doing UX work for Insomniac and has been doing that for 6-7 months now. But the other 4 of that core team, which we were calling the SWTOR's new council, Sith, it's either the Sith Council or the Jedi Council, whatever you want to think of them as. Uh, Caitlin is one, Ashley is one, Eric Musco is one, and then who was the 4th? Was it Brooks? Was it
I
Brooks
th-
Guffrey, Director of Development?
I don't know,
It
but
was
I
Brooks or
I want to
Brad
say
or I don't remember who the the 4th one of that list is, but there's a couple other big people that well Brooks and Brad are both a couple other big people as well. But so Caitlin is definitely moving. She will continue to be the lead writer, I would expect. I expect they're all keeping their roles.
yeah,
Did
that's what
she
I'm
say
going
that?
with.
Did she say that in her post? She did a tweet, um, a, a a series of tweets, like 4 of them as well. Um, Opinions. Oh no, that was her commenting on the opinions and stuff. Where was her so excited? I'm excited. She's excited. Yesterday was my first day as lead writer on SWTOR, just with more Broadsword. I'm no longer an employee of BioWare, and while getting laid off generally sucks, where I work isn't important, and all that matters is I get to continue working on an amazing project. 6 months away from my 10-year anniversary at BioWare. Not sad about leaving, more than anything excited about. Oh, so she's been there almost 10 years. Excited for what the future holds for us. And such an awesome community behind us, and now we can do anything. May the force be with you. And then she put some cool pictures in there too. I don't know where
That's quite a Wookie.
that is.
Um,
Oh, because it's Jakaro. Because he's got
yeah, yeah.
that's actually Jakaro. Somebody cosplays as Jakaro, and it looks like this looks like a Anaheim event.
I mean that reminds me of one thing we haven't really mentioned is that technically, like she mentioned, getting laid off. Technically, that's the process that they're all going through right now. Is they technically get laid off from BioWare and then hired by Broadsword, which is weird terminology, but that's what she was referring to there.
Yeah, that's a way to do it, and probably an easier way to do it, structurally and legally. They could have done it a different way, but because
Hmm.
the SWTOR team wasn't a separate company, like if it was all of BioWare moving to Broadsword, they wouldn't have had to do it that way.
Right.
But
Right.
because it was a sub team and not a subsidiary or wholly owned legal entity within BioWare, that's probably the most logical way to do it. But since all of them, and here we're going to go through the list, all of them are moving over in their exact roles. There wasn't the bad version of that process would be okay. We're making this transition. You are all laid off, and you're going to we're not going to be able to bring everyone over. You're going to need to interview for your job. And maybe we're going to be shuffling some chairs and having fewer people, and you're going to need to compete with some of your coworkers to get your new job. That does not seem to be the case, which is nice. Ashley was another one of the quintumvirate we mentioned of the 5 that were taking over, and as Charles was leaving. I also had some fun notes and a discussion on Twitter as well. This has definitely been a big transition with some tough decisions going along the way, but I'm grateful that I continue building the story of SWTOR at Broadsword as narrative director alongside my incredible team. When empathy is part of your team's ethos, you have a better foundation to support each other. Yada yada yada. Some good stuff here. I'm not going to read everything that everybody's putting up there, but you should definitely look through it because they're all saying some nice things. What was this that she posted? The picture that she posted. It's a cool bag thing. What is this? It's probably something that she did because she's that way. And as always, I'm excited to share what we're working on in the future. She makes things as well, in addition
Yes,
to
she
amazing
does.
content and games, and who's
She's a maker.
she's also a maker, and and she's got this like purse kind of thing that she made, which I bet she made. So I don't know. I don't know where she got it, but I bet she made this and it looks amazing. So yes. And then so Sportorista had a question mark by this next member of the Quintumvirate, Eric Musco, but I think it's pretty clear based on his tweet and his update of his title in the official forums to Broadsword and his LinkedIn update, I believe, as well. Why did I mess this up? What is... Oh, I think I accidentally added an extra letter in there. But he replied to a couple of things and basically like thumbs up the move to Broadsword, and his title in the official forums says Broadsword, so I would expect, but he didn't do a thing that said in his own words, but we're going to count him as
Yeah.
moving over to Broadsword. He didn't say, I am Eric Musco, I am now working for Broadsword. But I will do it in his voice. Hi, I'm Eric Musco. But he put a couple memes out there, and it looks like because the title is updated in the official forums, we're going to count Eric there as well. And then there's some people that we know a little bit less, but some of the people that we've seen in some of the dev streams. So people like Bryant Wood posted some notes, and Bryant is confirmed as moving over. You have my broad saber sword. So he is systems design in Broadsword, continuing his role as the systems designer. Bradley Lewis, if you guys saw any of the dev streams where they were showing off what was going into the cartel market, and alongside Brad was on there showing off the things he had crafted in real life, like the lightsaber hilts and the models and the little green robot that Jackie was waving around the last stream. That's all Brad. And Brad is continuing to move over again in his same role, art monetization director at Broadsword. So working on the cartel market, which obviously will continue as well because Brad's going to be there doing it. Brooks Guthrie, who's the director of development, he is definitely moving over as well. Posted a couple notes on Twitter. Did he put it here? Where did he put it? Onto a new but incredibly familiar journey. Excited by everything the SWTOR team will be bringing to life this year for many years to come. Grateful for my time at BioWare. So yep. And he's updated his LinkedIn as well to say, I am at Broadsword, director of development. So it's director of development. He's continuing his same title at Broadsword Online. So this is the kind of thing that is looking really interesting to me. So this, and we'll go through more of these names here in just a second. But there's a lot of really senior, really talented, really strong people coming over to Broadsword. I feel like this is almost like Broadsword merging into or being acquired by
Yeah.
the
The
SWTOR
SWTOR
team.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I think
I mean,
this
I
is
totally, I only see Dark Age of Camelot and Ultima Online benefiting.
right, potentially, and whatever else Broadsword might do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Having this strong of a team, they would be silly not to continue to have Star Wars: The Old Republic be really strong. Again, they probably have fiduciary responsibility to continue that, but now they've got this powerhouse. It's really got to be amazing, as we keep saying. Um, Rob Denton has got this team, alongside him. I would say underneath him, which he kind of does, but it's probably going to feel like alongside him because a lot of these people are now veterans that were around there when he was around there. Keith, as an example, I wonder how that's going to be looking as this evolves over the course of the next few years. So yeah, director of development Brooks Guthrie is moving over. Joe Stramaglia, who we have seen, I think we even saw Joe in some of the streams, right?
Yeah.
So Joe is definitely moving over as well, continuing his work as a systems designer. Dave Schramek, world designer, definitely moving over and posted some notes to that as well on Twitter. And Bryant Wood, I think also, did I already say Bryant? Yeah, I already said Bryant. So those were the people that were confirmed, I think, also in SWTORista's post. And then there were a few others that we had seen as well who made some comments. And then a whole bunch more that we sort of dug up because there were people that we were interested in, friends of ours, like Daniel Sefaradi, who was in a couple of the dev streams. And we did notice from Dan that he is an encounter designer at Broadsword Online Games now. So good thing we're going to have Dan still around, who's been doing some work on all of the current content. So we'll get to continue to see that. George Smith, who is gameplay design director. Again, so these are senior people, gameplay design director on SWTOR at Broadsword. And then the one other major one, and then we'll name off a couple other more interesting roles that it's good to see moving over as well. But Ted, so Ted, who we've seen around SWTOR for quite a while, very senior director of live services. So continuing to run this as a live service game, that's a big, important job. But Ted is definitely moving over as well. And you can see that on his LinkedIn posts. And that he's the director of live services, Broadsword Online Games. Ted, I believe, has been doing some of the work on the AWS stuff and will continue to be instrumental in making sure that the servers work and that anything they're doing with that move into Broadsword or into AWS and anything they do with that APAC server that's been alluded to a couple times.
I was going to say that.
Would probably be someone we should be paying attention to and hoping to hear more from. And then, as I said, then I found a list of, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 more people that if you look in LinkedIn that are associated with Broadsword now. And it's really good to see all these people moving over. A bunch of the art team, Wes Johnson, Matthew Trupiano, audio, the audio lead, which was that. So Isaac is another character. It's Sean Foley, so that's what made me think of audio.
Yes.
Sean Foley
I
is
was gonna
not
say.
the audio director. He
Right.
should have been the Foley artist. But he's
Right.
DevOps. So there's a bunch of people in here which you're going to see as DevOps. So they brought over their whole software engineering and the DevOps, the build team, the visual effects, the character designers, tools engineer. So this is the person, so Jeff Rodkey here, this is the people that are building like usually tools engineering, and this can be some of the systems engineering jobs for games, are the people that might be building a system which allows them to implement new missions in a more effective way. Is Matt the ops guy still part of SWTOR? Is the chat room is asking.
Yeah. That's a question mark. We don't know.
Oh,
He's
Matt
his
Pusevich, the
his
operations guy.
Yeah, his stuff still
I'm
says
thinking no.
BioWare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's one of, and we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, I think Matt may not be moving over, and we'll talk about a few of those notable exceptions. But yeah, I like seeing this whole list of like the software team and the artists and other producers which I've not been introduced to. But Rebecca Novak is moving over. I mean, we'd love to hear from some of these people in the future as well. More of the software engineering team. Uh, it- Really interested to see where a lot of these people continue to. Oh, here's Cole. Cole Riston is the audio director. So bringing over all of the audio team. So it's the entire production team and multiple DevOps people, gameplay, cinematic artist Eric Parsons, um, another development director, Amarita. Really hope that they uh, are happy moving over. I'm really excited to see this big of a team and all of the like not only the important people but all of the people that are doing all of the work.
Yes. Right, including
like
including
like
his
Eric's moving over and the people who are actually doing the work are moving over. Didn't mean to phrase it that way. But I will throw Eric under the bus for that.
No. Uh,
Um but yeah. So so what I also hope is because now they're becoming again bigger fish in a smaller pond, that they're going to have some fun with that and be able to do some interesting things and potentially have an opportunity to have a little bit more control over their destiny as a team that's getting out there and able to take both the IP and develop it and see what else Broadsword might be able to do. So I hope they're all happy. I know any kind of transition in work uh, is interesting times, quote unquote interesting times. Uh, but because they're all moving over together, it's got to be that's got to be a big factor that I hope is making them all feel comfortable. And from the public statements we're seeing on Twitter and the things that we're seeing in their posts, it sounds like that's the case, and I certainly hope that's the case behind the scenes.
and it lines up with how they talk about the team, how they've been talking about the team all along too.
Yes. Yeah. So, cheers to all those 28 people that we know so far. And I say so far, a couple notable exceptions, which we can go over now, could still be moving over. We don't know. We just have no evidence that they are. And they might not be because BioWare still needs people to develop their games, for one. For two, BioWare will continue to be the publisher. And maybe we'll finish up talking about that in just a second. Or three, maybe they were already working on other things, like Matt Pusevich might have been working on other things because we know that some of the SWTOR team had been pulled into
Mhm.
other projects over the years. We heard
Yep.
that from Chris Schmidt and other people as well. And you can even look at that in LinkedIn and see that, oh, I was working on Anthem a little bit. In and out, they may have already been pulled into other projects and may continue to need to be doing that work. And who knows, maybe they could come when that project finishes up. If you look at the rest of Broadsword, a lot of ex Mythic, a lot of ex EA, a lot of ex BioWare that have been at Broadsword for the last 5-8 years, and so we could still be pulling some of these people over in the future too. One that we mentioned was Alan Copeland. Alan actually left and went to Insomniac as we said 7 months ago. So it wasn't that
So
Alan
he must have been
leaving
at
anything.
BioWare only a few months because he was a new hire then.
Yeah. So he got sucked into Spider-Man. Uh,
Mm.
Daniel Steed is a producer, still listed as a producer for BioWare. Daniel Steed may still be, and I don't see his title updated in the forums, so we'll have to see what Dan does. One encounter designer who we did see in the developer stream, who I hope comes over, but we'll have to see. She might be getting pulled into other things as well, as Victoria McCreary. So Victoria was on the last dev stream, if you remember that, talking about her work designing the Curse, which is the new
Yep.
boss for the
Shrine of Silence.
Shrine of Silence Flashpoint. So no Victoria Fred Newman, Phred, Fred Newman, who has done a bunch of the art. Um, we didn't really get what his title was. External dev artist was his title in LinkedIn. So I don't know exactly what
He
that
does all
title
the
means.
outdoor art.
External art. The internals, like people's like lungs and intestines, that was done by someone else. So I don't know. So again, Fred may be across many projects as a result, and maybe not yet moving over, or we don't know. Again, it's another one who it's a big question mark. Oh, so
He did? Oh.
Intisar is looking and says that Victoria did announce on Twitter that she's going to Broadsword. Good, good, good to hear. Glad to have you moving over. 3 cheers for Victoria because I liked hearing her thoughts and think she did a good design job on the curse. I liked that boss and I want to see more. So good. Good to hear. Uh Sabir. Sabir was another one. So chat room, if you could do some investigation or Intisar if you know. I hope Sabir is moving over, but we see no evidence yet of Sabir moving over. And Sabir has been doing the class balancing and the PvP work on the game and has been in a couple of dev streams so far. I was really liking what I was hearing from Sabir. Hope he does move over, but again, he might be pulled into other things as well. He might be having to do Dragon Age class balancing. Who knows? And then another one, as we said, who we have heard from in the past and we are a big fan of, but I have seen no evidence of him moving over, is Matt Pusevich, who has done a lot of the operations work on Star Wars: The Old Republic throughout the years. Matt?
So basically, just want to clarify, they haven't announced. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
They haven't announced. They haven't changed their handle to
Right.
say Broadsword. So we have no evidence that they're moving. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
Who knows what's actually going on with them?
Right.
Maybe they're on vacation.
Right. Right. And so we were looking for people's announcements and tweets and title changes and things like that. These people we have not seen. But again, some people might need to be sticking around at BioWare. And it will be a lost if any of those people are not part of the team because they did some good work. But we will continue to enjoy their work in perpetuity. So, what else is staying at Electronic Arts? So, Seema, you had a good clarification. Potentially nothing at BioWare to do with Star Wars: The Old Republic, but Electronic Arts definitely has things to
Yes.
do with Star Wars: The Old Republic. So Electronic Arts, and there could be people that were part of the SWTOR team that are now badged Electronic Arts and doing their job as part of what's going on there. And I would expect there is a group of people that were all involved in the publishing end of it. So let's talk about what a publisher is, what a game publisher is. One thing which isn't as pertinent here in this case, although there is a big component of it, it's probably going on behind the scenes. We talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, is funding. Oftentimes, when a new game is being developed or an indie studio is developing a game, and maybe they've got a vertical slice, or maybe they've got a demo, or maybe they've got a pitch, a publisher may come in and provide the funding. So they're paying the salaries and they're paying for the servers and things like that. They're funding the development. And then what happens is an agreement gets put in place that says then once we're going to launch this game, and then the publisher has a lot to do with that as well, but once this game gets launched, we get paid back from all of that funding that we put out there. And then after we get paid back, then the developer and the publisher split the profit that's coming out of what's moving forward. And it's got to be profit from that point forward because there may still be revenue that's being soaked up, especially in a live service game. In this case, our speculation is quite broad, and we have no idea how the financials of the deal worked. But a couple of things that we alluded to in the pre-show is I would expect there would be some bit of financials where If ownership of the assets and the IP is moving over to Broadsword, well, Broadsword is on the hook to pay for that asset and pay for this team. The team members itself, and taking the team and taking the asset and running the live service and getting all of that uh, in the future, there's a value to that, and it's a large value. It's probably, my estimate was probably in the tens of millions, at a minimum. Because what you're going to do when you sell a company is you're going to look at current revenue, forward revenue, and maybe you're going to take what it looks like, the expected revenue over the course of the next year, and expecting that that's going to continue as long as there's not a cliff that's dropping off. And then you have a multiple on top of that, and that multiple can be anywhere from 3 to 5, or often up to 10, especially if it's a growth market. This may not be growth, so 3 to 5 times multiple. Take the annual revenue that they're pulling in from the cartel market and from subscriptions, and then multiply that by 5. And Broadsword may be on the hook that they need to either get outside funding for that, or the way they could have cut this deal, again, is kind of how publishers work, is they could have to pay that back to Electronic Arts. So the next few years, potentially the next 5 years of profit, may end up needing to go back to Electronic Arts to cover the transfer of the assets. That's not to say that the revenue is all going back to Electronic Arts. The profit is going to potentially need to go back to pay for that, that big ball of assets. The revenue is going to need to be covering, and the difference between revenue as profit is what comes after the expenses, and the expenses are server costs and people costs. So everybody's salaries are going to get paid, and Broadsword salaries that are now focused on making sure that they're doing the work to keep servers up and running and moving some of their team over to be running it. EA does not own Broadsword. No, EA does not own Broadsword. EA was involved at the time in spinning off some of the people that went off to create Broadsword. So this is some things that are going on in the chat room. No, Broadsword is a completely separate company. It is not owned by Broadsword, and is privately owned. EA remains the publisher. Broadsword is the developer and owner of the assets. The copyright may continue to stay with Electronic Arts as well, because that's, again, the rights to the copyright, which is part of typically what a publisher asks for and wants, so that they can do the things they need to do to be pushing then the assets out into the marketplace. And that might be through physical box product, and EA may be continuing to be responsible for that. And that may be for doing things like pushing it into the Steam game store. And they may be doing actually some technical parts of that as well. We know that they're also going to, okay, so Intisar is saying copyright belongs to Lucasfilm. The Star Wars copyrights belong to Lucasfilm, and there's probably either a licensing deal arranged for that, but so let's say the publishing rights are going to be under the control of Electronic Arts. And then the support, we know, is going to be staying with Electronic Arts. So they're going to be doing work when you have a problem with your account, or you need to call up and get something fixed, or maybe even all the way down to, hey, there was a bug and I lost this armor piece. Can you grant it back in the game? They may have GMs on staff and support people on staff in Electronic Arts, which continue to be working on Star Wars: The Old Republic as the publisher roles, doing that publisher stuff. One other thing that came up, I don't know, it was in the pre-show or you already said it, Seema, though, is also in marketing. Often the publisher is in charge of or provides marketing as a service. If EA starts marketing Star Wars: The Old Republic, that would be refreshing and new.
Right. Right.
But they could do that. So that may be the case. They may take on um, because now they want to recoup what they're owed from a fiduciary responsibility. They could do some marketing, and maybe they've signed up to do that. Maybe they've promised that as part of the deal. Um, that would be nice. I don't know how that's going to work, or they may have split the marketing responsibility, or they may give all of the marketing responsibility to Broadsword and let Broadsword take on marketing responsibility. So we don't know how that's going to work, but that would be something that oftentimes a publisher will take on, especially for an indie game. Again, you got a small indie game, you got a single person creating Stardew Valley. The publisher might be the one that's out there creating some ads and paying for a booth at a conference and you know making deals so that it
Right.
appears in the Happy Meal and stuff like that.
When you're a small indie game, that's why you want a publisher,
Right.
is
That's
to
the
get your game in front of eyes.
That's the value the publisher brings to the table in addition to the funding, and that's the reason that you're willing as a developer to allow the deal to continue on into the future in perpetuity, where they continue to get some percentage of the profit. And that usually happens forever as long as they remain the publisher. And that typically is something you could think of something in the 20% range is often the kind of deal. And it might even be more for a small indie developer in their first game because there's a financial risk, especially if the publisher is funding the deal, then they're putting a bunch of money up front and hoping that this developer is going to keep to their promises and finish the product and get something out the door. So they're going to want return on investment, and that return on investment is 20% of the profit, sometimes more. So yeah, we'll see. We know EA continues to be the publisher. We know Broadsword is now the developer, and we know this very substantial. And now we've confirmed 29 people, and we know their names and a bunch of their roles are now basically, from what I can see, running Broadsword. That's really exciting and interesting and a great deal for Broadsword. So congrats to them. Congrats to the team. Glad to see the band is staying together. And congrats to Rob Denton. And good on you for getting this team to be part of what you've got at Broadsword and moving forward. It's got to be really exciting. All right. I'm excited. Are you excited, Seema?
I can't. I'm optimistic to see how this all rolls out.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. And because so much of the band is still together, I'm quite optimistic. And
I think
it's
there's
exciting for
another
everything.
piece that EA is retaining, which is the large scale support stuff.
Yeah, so
Like, did you mention that?
yeah, the
Okay.
the account support, all potentially all the way down to game
Right.
GMs, which So anytime you need
Game.
to call support or you're submitting support tickets,
I
EA
think you'll
is
still be getting
yeah,
EA.
yeah. I talked through that a
I'm
little
not
bit.
sure where they draw the line there because that's, in my mind, that's part of running a game. But EA obviously has big systems for taking care of that. So
Yes. Yeah. So cool. Congrats everybody who's all of the SWTOR band that is now the clan that is now Broadsword, and they have Broadsword next to their name and next to their titles. Congrats. Hope the transition continues to go smoothly, but its transition has happened. And looking forward myself to, what was it, 3.5.1? Yeah, that's 3.5.1 is something that is coming out in summer, and 7.4.
7.3.1.
Oh, 7. What 3.5.1. 7.3.1 is coming in summer, towards the end of summer is what Keith said. So that's going to be another update. And then 7.4, a little bit bigger update as we enter the holidays. Excited for
So
that?
same book, new chapter, and every player every day.
Every player, every day. Let's do it. Do it. All right. Anything else, Emma?
No.
All right. Also, every player every day can come join us on newoverlords.com/Discord.
King of the segue.
Because with that, we are going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. EPC 472 is ready to jump out an airlock to broadcast this out there, which you will all see hitting the feeds this weekend. All the feed and subscribe links will be on newoverlords.com, and our videos go up on YouTube/newoverlords. You can come chat with us, as we said, in Discord. That's newoverlords.com/Discord. Follow on Twitter, as long as we still have that available to us as a feed source, at Max the Gray and at the New Overlords. And when the show goes live and when it does hit the feeds, I do post to there. I sometimes post on Mastodon now as well, at Max the Gray. On Mastodon, one of my Mastodon, I don't know. Ask me in Discord what the Mastodon link is. We'll keep you up to date there as well. For the AIE Guild on Starforge and in all the games that we play, and especially to join us for our summer events coming up at the end of July, check out aie-guild.org. The Discord link is there on that page, right on the landing page, as well as a little bit of a summary blog post that we've got going up there now, in addition to the AIE podcast, which you can jump in and hear about what goes on across our community, which is really cool. But Tetsemi, one of our officers, who's also one of the co-hosts of the podcast, has decided to, once every 2 weeks, put a blog post up. You should check that out. Jump in to our aie-guild.org SWTOR channels, and we'll get you a guild invite, and you come join us in all of our guild fun too. With that, now that I did all of that and added more things to it, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone. Go away now.
Go away.